Is there a perfect time to pay off your property loans? Hi, I'm Jaryd Krause.
And I'm Sam Powell, and we are the hosts of Property Pals Australia podcast. And in this episode, we're going to be discussing what you should do next after acquiring a property. It's a really great list of questions that we had come through, and we also discussed, should you pay off your loans, and if so, what's the best strategy for that?
Yeah, we also discuss, should you save for another property deposit and go again? And or when should you start enjoying the fruits of your property portfolio that you've actually built? And all of this depends on your life situation, and we go into each different sort of situations that may pop up in your life through different stages, and when you should either start enjoying the fruits or investing more. Before we get stuck in this podcast episode, obviously this is not the only way we can help you for free. Get our How to Maximize Your Borrowing Capacity mini course so you can go away and buy a superior assets. To get that, head to propertypals.au and it'll be in the resources section. Enjoy the pod. Welcome to Property Pals, the podcast where we share everything around how to build a property portfolio, from researching areas, financing, structuring, buying, selling, and reinvesting to live a life of financial independence. As a disclaimer, any information shared by myself, Jaryd, Sam, and the Property Pals team is strictly general and should not be taken as constituting professional advice. You should consider seeking independent legal, financial, and taxation advice from a qualified professional. Samuel.
Right. Jaryd Krause. Welcome to the pod, episode 68.
68, getting up there. That's right. And we hit a good goal on YouTube views. If you guys haven't checked out our videos, if you just listen to this audio, you can look at our sexy faces on YouTube too. Sam's got some good systems in place now with some great shorts and stuff on Instagram. So if you're not on Instagram either, check us out on Instagram too. Property Pals Australia on the IG. But this is a sort of a backup episode to last week, right, Sam?
Yeah, I like to have themes. Inherently, we jump around on the potty, and hopefully people get a bit of a laugh out of our banter. But in the world of AI and people actually just being robots, you don't know what's real or what's not. So I like the semi-unpolished version of how we do. But yes, the theme that we're running at the moment is strategy. And yeah, this is a continuation because we have a really good listener question, a couple of questions actually that have come in, which we thought we'd just openly riff on.
Yeah. So if you haven't listened to episode 67, which is the obviously one previous to this, it's how to lose 600 grand from poor property investing, which is based on strategy, and that's like acquiring in the right place for you, and also understanding what sort of portfolio you want to build, which is pretty key and pretty important. But this listener question is from a good buddy of ours about what's next after you buy, really. And so do you just, it depends on, and this is where strategy comes in, right? To answer this question, it depends on what strategy you have. Some people, do you just smash the loan, pay it off, or do you save enough for another property? What's not in here as a question is one that I'm going to add is like, do you let the property grow in equity and pull some equity out and acquire another one? And then he's also got here, is there ever a time to start actually enjoying the passiveness of the income from a property, or should you wait till it's fully paid off? And that's a very personal preference, isn't it? And depending on what age you are, where you're at in your life circumstance. So where do you think we should kick this off, Sam? Like there's a few different sort of trains of thoughts and strategies based off this one question of like, what's next once you've purchased the property?
Yeah, the first thing my mind goes to is case by case, Jaryd. It's always different, which is boring. And like you hear people say
depends.
that. So it always depends, but it does in that. Like I'll just give you my opinion, right? It depends on where you are in life and what your cash flow is. If you've just purchased, and this is relevant for anybody, like property is it's a longer term game, medium to long term game. So sit there and go, well, like it's philosophical too. So I'm glad that we get to have this conversation because there's no guarantee of tomorrow, and a lot of people do live in I'm going to work really hard now, and then I'm going to in a job that this is one of the I guess right, like where I differentiate it is that a lot of people are out there like work really hard, save up your money and invest really hard, and then you can enjoy the fruits of your labor in 20, 30 years. For me personally, it's like, well, I've seen a lot of people actually go and do that, hit to 60, 70, sometimes 80, and then they
80 what? 80 grand per year?
In age.
Oh, in age? Okay.
So like, I don't know. I guess in my life, I've always been very interested in, the meaning of life, and you see people do it certain ways, and there's, I guess the biggest point is that they hit retirement. They have 2-3 years of doing nothing in retirement, and then there's something in the body where it's so used to being so mind so active, body so active, you go is when they stop and they relax, and then like illness comes in to their lives, and then it can be cut short, and then it goes back to me thinking, well, having this chat with my wife last night, I was like, well, I'm 35, my body's only going to be 35 today, like this year. So I think that there's a balance in life where we're all running around trying to achieve some certain level of passive income, but there's a bigger picture at play. So that's my viewpoint. But what about you, Mr. Bali entrepreneur man sitting there?
Well, I agree. There's a great book by John Perkins, which is called Die with Zero. And it's based on the fact that you should die with $0 in your bank account. And I think we've talked about this, and I've recommended it to maybe, or spoke about it to you or with you and a bunch of other people as well. But it's on the principle that the younger you spend your money on experiences and good things, the better ROI you get. For example, when you are going to go on a surf trip with your buddies, and like we did in the Ments, right? Back in 2018, we were just frothing, catching a ton of waves. Let's just say, for example, each session we're catching 30 waves each, 30 to 40 waves each, right? Now, that, like, if we didn't go on that surf trip, which cost a couple of grand, and then we decided to save that money and hold on to it and then do it later in life, that couple of grand, let's just say it was 3 grand, and we went and did it in 5 years from now when we're 40, we would probably catch half the amount of waves and surf half the amount of time, and it wouldn't, we wouldn't get the best ROI from spending that money earlier. But then you've also got to have this happy medium of the equation of, well, do you take some level of, you got to play the balance of like, what amount of sacrifice do you take now, and then what amount of money do you spend now to get the best ROI and the best of both worlds? It's a very tricky thing to balance, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's where it comes down to case by case. Is you need to, take that time. And I say, go get a pen, paper, or just take your phone. Or I say phone's not that great because you still got that digital connection. But I mean, drop everything, go for a walk in nature. This is kind of spiritual sort of stuff. But I mean, how often do you actually just go for a walk in the trees and get peace and quiet from everything that's around you, and just take that hour, go for a walk, good exercise, but it'll get you thinking, and you'll find your balance, basically equilibrium. And like my guiding rails to that balance is, don't spend everything that you earn. You're always still like that. The richest man in Babylon philosophy is always there in my brain, where it's like, pay yourself first, like 10% as a minimum. So that's where you have those buckets of. In answer to the question is, it depends on what your goals are. I mean, if you've got the ability, like paying down, the fastest way to a passive income is to pay down the debt and to then every 12 months see what opportunities like where you can pull equity out. You're obviously increasing your rents and the accumulation phase. So the quickest way to get to like a wealthier, focusing on the wealth side of things, like a monetary value, is to accumulate fast and live a really frivolous life. So saving a lot of money, building that portfolio, because time will do that heavy lifting, and that's your best friend in that sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. So what we mentioned before is like really like work out what your balance is, and like you said with that great book, Richest Man in Babylon's, work out what buckets you have that you want to put money into. And that money can be savings for entertainment, it can be savings for trips and travel, and it can be savings in terms of like investment dollars that you put into a bucket for your investment account. And then work out like, do you want to go heavier into putting your money towards investments, or do you want to like, are you 50-50, right? Or are you at the age where you're like, oh, actually I want like maybe 60 to 70% of my money going to entertainment and fun and travel and stuff, and maybe 30% towards investments. Depends on what age you're at and your life circumstance. I think it depends. Yeah, it's very dependent on your life and your situation and how quick you want to go. And like you said, the being frivolous and wanting to go harder, then putting more money into saving up that income from your job or your business or both. Maybe you have a job, a business, and property, right? Maybe you're doing some side income stuff. Taking most of that cash and then putting it back into your property portfolio can be valuable, and that's going to help you grow faster. So it depends. I think for people that want to like pay down the loan, I don't think that strategy, if you want to grow fast, I don't think that strategy is the best way to go. Because I don't think you're going to get the best ROI from your dollar by paying down your loan. Whereas waiting for putting that money into a strategy could be putting that money into your offset account until you have enough for a deposit from that offset account. And then maybe it's like you need 100K for a deposit. Maybe you got 50K in cash in that offset account, and then you've got 50K equity or 100K equity, and you pull 50K equity out and put 150K of your cash and then go away and acquire another property. That's probably a faster way to grow than paying down your loan, because if you hammer down your loan, you don't necessarily have the 100% confirmation that you can pull that money out of your loan as equity to use it again. So you're better off having it in your offset account, right, Sam? So if you if you're going to go that route, then that's probably the fastest way if you wanted like a lot of accumulation. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about going the hard route, and then let's talk about going like the more like entertainment, fun, personal route, and then we'll talk about in betweens.
Oh yeah, that's some good barriers for us in the potty. That's good. Yeah, 100%. Debt is your friend. Like you're leveraging it, and you're in that accumulation phase. Paying like just the issue that I see most people do is they buy that one property, principal place of residence or an investment, and then their job they spend the time paying it down. Like I got to be mindful here, just that because it depends so much, right? Like it's what risk you're willing to take. So, and why we say it depends is because we all know there's different stages in life. Generally, if you're investing in property, you're either in your 20s, so you've got you're making good income, but you don't have any kids or things like that. Then you go into your 30s, 40s, you might have a partner, have kids, or have really strong travel aspirations. And then 50s, 60s, it starts to shift where you might probably traveling more, maybe in your 50s, 60s, and then 70s, 80s, you're starting to travel less because you don't want to be stuck in a plane. So it always depends. And I have these conversations with so many people, and it's like, well, the fastest way to do it is, basically just look at raising rents, raising your income, leveraging as much as you possibly can. That's a safe level. Like, I'm very sort of safe to say, well, let's look at the worst case scenario. The trick to this game is to be able to hold these properties through multiple cycles. So that psychological thing of, the market's done nothing in 12 months, let's just sell it, is like, well, no, that's not a thing. So what you want to do is have that mindset and that comfortability to go hard as fast, use debt. Debt, why we love it, is because inflation, which is on everyone's lips at the moment, actually works for you because it's inflating away that value of debt. To put an example around that is, like what were we when we were? How much was a redskin or a red frog back in the day?
5-10 cents.
Yeah, like 5-10 cents. Now it's like, I don't know, 50 cents, $1. Like, it's that's what inflation does. So if you can lock in that red frog value at 5 cents today, in 20 years' time, it'll be worth $1. So that's that mentality that that's in your favor. And that's why we're favors of debt. The Debt Millionaire is a great book to further establish that. And then, with that accumulation phase, it's just time. Like, time does the heavy lifting, and you'll get good growth. Like, your properties, Jaryd, we've seen the last 6 years have been phenomenal, like for price growth. There's a rule of 72 that I aim for with the property investors that I work with, which is that means that if you're growing at a 7.2% price growth rate year on year, in 10 years, your $500,000 asset will be worth $1 million. Like, that's that target that we're trying to get to. So if you can, like, by using leverage and getting into more assets, you'll have more of a holding of property. So when those increase over time, your net worth will increase. So if you had, one property, round numbers, at $1 million and it increased 10%, then obviously it's 1.1. But if you had, two $1 million properties and that increased at 10%, you've doubled your return on investment. That's that whole sort of mentality of, if you can, and it suits with your risk profile and your personal household cash flow budget, and go hard and go fast and be willing to sacrifice, holidays, eating out, that new car, that jet ski, that boat, all that rubbish that you don't really need, that you can go really hard and really fast. And I understand that not everyone has that ability to exit out of their current career that they're probably not big fans of, because they realize that's probably the highest they can get paid because they've been doing it the longest. To switch will require a pay cut in most cases. So, it might just be, pull your socks up and let's just run it, because the next 10 years, it will give you options. You might have that, like, in 10 years' time, even if you bought that, you put everything into one property and you couldn't afford anything else, like with your cash flow, you're just stretched out because in that 10 years, you went from one income to two incomes with two kids, and, then you got school fees and everything on top of that. Who cares? That one asset gives you options in the future. You can choose to sell that asset down to give you breathing space to build your dream lifestyle, which could be starting your own business or even just taking a year off. Like, it gives you options. Rant.
I want to back that up in a different light. So it's not that I want to go on a record saying to never pay down your loan. That's not exactly what I'm saying. If I think for people that are investing in property, the reason where most people are doing it is for options, and options equals freedom. And I think that's the actual goal, most people's goal for investing in anything. And that chunk that down to that one asset class being property, is most of us want freedom at a certain stage in our life, and probably as soon as possible. Now, if you pay down your loan, then that money is sort of stuck in that asset as per se, versus if you put, instead of paying down the loan, you can put it in your offset account, right? And I'll say this because, like, if you put in your offset account, you can take that money is yours to spend at the drop of a hat, right? Because it's in a different bank account, versus if it's in a loan, it's already paid off, and the bank has that now, right? And they, for you to take equity out, you have to come to an agreement. They might say no, all that sort of stuff. So it's better off, I believe, to have, instead of paying down a loan, paying off the loan into the loan account is, I think, paying down the loan via having it in your offset account is the way to go. And then you have optionality. And exactly like what you have said, Sam. And I also want to add to the thing when you talked about, buying a property now at the lowest possible price they are, and using inflation and time, putting that on your side. That is, they're the two biggest levers, right? Leverage as in finance, but also leverage as in time. And then what you're doing is you're putting your money to work, and you're putting the world, the universe to work, because you're using time to grow your wealth. Then it's less stress and pressure on you. Now, with that said, if you go and buy, like you said, Sam, you could have $1 million worth of property, or you could have $2 million worth of property. The way I think about it is that I want to acquire as much property with as much debt as I possibly can in my accumulation phase. Because when I do that, say for example, if I have $1 million of property worth, but maybe I've got like a 200 or 300K in finance, but I've got $1 million worth of property. That $1 million worth of property times, let's just do easy math, say it's like 5% of a growth rate, which is very, very conservative. That $1 million property is going to grow at 50 grand a year, right? So what I actually have going on in my head is that my money and my property portfolio is building my wealth at a rate of $50,000 per year. Now, if I have that at 2 million times 5% of a growth rate, which is again very conservative, that's 100 grand a year that my property portfolio is earning me in dollars, right? In value. And then if you do that by times that again, 4 mil, and that 4 mil is making you, double that, that's making you 200K a year. It's a really good way to see how fast your property portfolio value can grow by using a conservative number like 5%. Maybe you want to use 8%, 6%, 7%, 10%, like what you mentioned, Sam. But I think being conservative with it is a good way to go. And that's why I think about having debt and having the size of the property portfolio, and having that, if I want to get 100K in, build my wealth by 100K per year, it doesn't need to be 100K in cash flowing into my pockets. It can be 100K in value growth. So that's the way I think about it. And then when it comes to the point of when do you, he's got a really good question here. Also, is there ever a time to actually start enjoying the, positive income or the passive income from a property, or should you just wait till it's fully paid off? Like I said before, I would never wait till something is fully paid off or fully paid. I would never fully pay something off via paying down a loan into the loan account month over month or year over year. I would likely, in my situation, unless somebody else proves me wrong or has a better theory in the future, now or into the future, what I think I would do is, and what I am doing, is paying that money into my offset accounts. And then when I decide I want to sell something, then take that money out of the offset account and sell the property, and then use that money to acquire another asset. And or when I decide, okay, maybe I've got, let's just say I've got 5 properties and I've got finance on all of them. They're all at 80% LVR, but I also have offset accounts with each of them, and my income just gets spread out in between those 5 offset accounts. As soon as it comes in, gets paid into those 5 offset accounts. And then I get to a point in my life where I'm like, okay, I've got 3 kids. I 3 kids, a partner, and I want to like just maybe like not have any debt, and I just want to pay off all of my loans, pay off all of my debt, and then I can you know just earn that income, because I'm in a situation in my life where I think I want to earn an income without the debt. I don't want the risk. Then I can just roll over that cash that's in the offset account into paying off the loan. Or I could sell maybe 2 properties, and those 2 properties to sell, I could pay off the rest of the loans for those other 3, and then live off the passivity. So I would never say paying down the loan is the best way to go, because then it gives you the options in the future when you do get to a point in your life, you go, well, I don't want as much debt. How do I work out a strategy, which is a whole strategy in itself based on where you're at in that current environment of like, what debt do you get rid of? What properties do you get rid of? And what properties do you pay off or not pay off to claim that income, versus if you're locked in, if you paid off each of them all equally and one grew more and you want to sell it, like can you see what I mean, Sam?
Yeah, I'd say even to a point where don't be afraid of debt, even if you die with debt. Like, debt allows you to amplify your returns because you can control a better value asset. So, yeah, exactly what you said. You can even use yourself as like you become your own bank in a way. Like, there's different facilities as you grow in your portfolio, like commercial banking, and you can have, there's offsets, there's redraws, there's line of credits, a bit less frequent these days. But I mean, you could, as you said, you could have a offset facility, and you might have the $1 million in debt essentially, but you might have $1 million in your offset. So you can essentially buy any property with you can put cash offers down. Like you've already got that facility set up. Gives you many options over time, and then later in life too. Like it really comes down to your phase in life. So like if you're, because everyone's different, if you're getting at that stage towards your 60s, 70s, or even if you're 50s, if you've got like enough assets and you can play that game, and this is why strategy is so important. I sit down with people as a property strategist and sit there and go, all right, well, these are the options. This is what it looks like. Let's model this out for you so you can make that decision. If you are really jack of it and you just and you're 50, or even if you're 40, you've done really well. It's like, well, you can live off X. Like, it might be $100,000 a year, it might be $200,000 a year. Do you want to? Most people, what they actually do is in those later years is they'll sell a business or they'll retire. They'll have that freedom and flexibility, and then they'll just migrate into requiring a purpose. And the purpose generally is around, well, if I'm going to put my time and energy into something, like, it is nice to be paid for it. Or you'll find people actually just want to pay you for your time because they really appreciate the value you provide. There's another income stream that might be in your future that you have no idea what it might even be today.
Yeah.
So yeah, like in this circumstance, to go a little bit deeper and actually answer the question for our pal, our property pal, we're all pals here. But it's like, well, put those big rocks in the jar. Sit down and talk about, is it the family home? Why? Let's talk about that. In a private conversation. Is it a holiday? Those offset buckets. I mean, you can set things up where all your money goes into your offset account, but then you have transfers to like second or third tier offsets where it's like, well, all my money goes in here that offsets the debt to the loan. We have met with our mortgage broker, and we don't have any real capability to purchase. If you do have like borrowing capacity and you have the household cash flow to justify a residential or a commercial purchase, then let's have that chat to see what that potential is. If it's a no, then you're still in that, all right, well, let's pay down, let's put money in your offset facility. But I mean, you're only in that's the current stage of your life once, so this is the, I guess, let's go down to the, taking it really, really easy path.
Yeah, non-aggressive.
Not aggressive is, if you've got income, you're enjoying it, like, there's only certain things you can do at the current stage in your life. Like when we were 20, it was different. When we're 30, we're different. 40, it's always changing. Like your body is going to degrade over time. It's inevitable. We all die at some stage, morbid stuff, but it's like, well, yeah, if you can go for a hike and enjoy like hiking Mount Everest, and you really want to do that, like sit down and write. There's this great sort of a great process I went through a few years back with this motivational speaker guy. 100 things to do before you die. Write that list. Like life is about experience. It's not just about money. It's about health, relationships, and wealth, in my opinion. So those, like, your health comes from getting out, like looking after your body, putting good food into your body, and then exercising, being in the sun, like enjoying that, because if you don't do it now, you never know, you might not ever be able to do it.
Yeah, and that's the exact same reason that you shouldn't be paying down your loan, is if you have that money in the offset account and something pops up where it's like, I want to go hike Mount Everest, or you have a health condition that you need cash for, you have that cash. The bank's not going to go, oh no, sorry, I paid down this loan, but I didn't really want to. Can you give me some of that money back that I paid you back for the loan? They're going to say no.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
It just gives you optionality, right?
Yeah, I just want to sort of, what do they say, double click. I don't know, go back to that point. It's massive. So when you're saying pay down your loan, like there's principal and interest repayments. That's like that, paying down that loan. Like offset, we still see as paying down the loan, but you've got access to your cash, because if you're paying the principal off, or you're refinancing to a lower LVR, which isn't a bad idea. If you're started out at a 90% LVR, you're probably paying a slightly higher interest rate. If you've got enough cash in that offset, you can rebalance it to an 80%, reduce your interest rate. Then that'll help with your costs. But if you've got all your money parked into, if you've paid it all off, and like what gives you access to those funds is your cash flow. So if something happened to your household cash flow, like say you're working and then something unfortunate happened, and then you could no longer work, or you're on workers' compensation, leading to a massive reduction in income. The banks, you won't have that income to justify pulling that equity out. So you can find yourself really stuck. That's why Jaryd is really hitting on to money in your offset is similar, but it's your money. No one can tell you, oh no, you're not allowed to take that out. So something to think about.
I mean, if you've got a 500k property and you've got 200k paid off the loan, and then you've got 300k in offset, it's basically like you're not paying. You've paid off the property anyway, right? You're not really paying interest. So why not have that 300k cash as an optionality when something you'd be like, oh, actually, if I went and took that 300k and I bought two more 500k properties, 150k deposit each, then I'm getting, an extra mil of value in the market that's going to grow at, say, 50 grand a year at a 5% growth rate, right? Say it's 8% a year, it's an 8% growth rate. So I could take that 300k cash and then go away and put it into two properties, secure $1 million worth of property that's going to grow my income at 80 grand a year. Like, versus like it all completely paid off and you have to sell that house to use some money. That's a shitty option.
Yeah, it's like having cattle. You put the energy in to growing the calf, and it bears fruit. But if you sell the cow, you can't continue to take the income that the milk produced by the cow. There's a really shit analogy, but anyway.
But exactly right.
No one's running around with just one cow milking one cow. Once you understand the process and how it works, it's like the hardest one's the first one, and then you build from there. But there definitely comes to a stage, and this is what the strategy side of things and what we're talking about the last 3 episodes is, you don't want to have 20 properties. You get to a stage where there is a sell down level. Where that property, it grows in value because it's more affordable price point. Will that grow as much? An example is talk to clients all the time about this. Like we buy the $500,000 property, the growth rate from 500 to $1 million is a lot faster from $1 million to $2 million. So once you get to that sort of rate, and this is where there's no direct answer. That's why data is so important, and why I spend a lot of money on data to go, well, this location is, is plateauing at the moment, seeing good growth. So what's like the option there is to sell down that $1 million asset, then go and buy two $500,000 assets because they will grow faster into that. So you get to that $2 million portfolio size quicker and with more cash flow generally. Like those lower price points have better cash flow. So to each their own. People will say, well, you can go buy all your money in $1-2 million asset. Yes, that's where I start talking to people where commercial is a greater option because that still holds a lot of intrinsic value and better cash flow, and you're jumping into the space of you buy a $1 million, $2 million commercial play, in 20 years' time, 10 years' time, that could be, $5-10 million. You're jumping into the realm then of superannuation funds, private equity houses, banks as that asset class. Whereas no super fund or private equity is going to be buying a, $5 million residential house that's they can't even rent out for any more than $1,500 a week anyway. It's just poor business.
Yeah, and to emphasize on the question of is there ever a time to start actually enjoying the passivity of the property portfolio and have it fully paid off? It's the time. I think it's worth just getting ready for the time where you will feel it. Like now is a time in my life where I want to not go as hard, and I want to enjoy the fruits of my labor. And if you have optionality by acquiring a bunch of properties early, and going a bit more aggressive at the start, and then also making sure your cash that you do build up is in offset accounts, then it's time to go, okay, cool, maybe sell one off or pay one off completely, or start enjoying it. And that, I think that, I don't know, I haven't been through all the phases of life. I would still consider it's pretty young, Sam, but maybe when you get to 45 you're like, all right, cool, like my kids are 15 and I want to buy them cars, and I want to spend more time with them, like teaching them how to drive and whatever it is. Like you might not be able to foresee what that looks like in 5-10 years time, but if you've got the optionality, that's the time to start enjoying it. I think my philosophy is the best ROI you can get on life, or the thing that I value the most in life is experiences with people you love, because you can reminisce them. And if money can help you have those, then fucking just take it out of the property and do
it. Me too, mate. And I think that's what's missing in this property investing world, where people are just, the business model is always going to push you and market to you to, hit your ego, acquire. But I guess going back to what was thinking in my brain when you were talking then was, you are taking from your future self by spending it today. But what is that worth? There is a return on investment through experiences, as you say. I just my biggest thing is just focus on, if you are going to spend the money on yourself today, make sure it is a good investment. And what is not a good investment is buying things for the ego to impress people that you don't really know. Or example, I guess we all need a car, so that's fine. But you can choose between a $200,000 car, $100,000 car, $50,000 car. What is it that actually suits? Your family and friends aren't going to care what car you drive. So select that accordingly. The thing around, even I'm not a big fan of boats, but I also understand that there's an element in life, especially I got 2 kids and stuff now, where you can have access to that. If it is a boat or a jet ski or something where you have really good fun, or a caravan, and you have those experiences, that's something that you can't put a figure on, and that's for you to decide where you see value. Like, I struggle with spending money on anything because in my mind it's always like, well, that $100 I could spend now, I could turn that into $200. Like, so I've got to. I'm trying to work on a different mindset, which is, enjoying the present, because there's some people that are around me in my life that have hit those retirement ages, and I think the world is really backwards in the way people think. Is we go to work, we earn money, and then we retire, and then we enjoy the fruits of our labor in retirement. If you shift that perception to say, well, I don't actually aspire to retire. Like, I want to be active in my mind and do what is required to give me purpose, as a income vocation blended with lifestyle, like till I'm at least 80. Like, your brain's active all the way up until then. Taking that longer term mindset will take a lot of stress out of it for you, and hopefully make you think a little bit differently to what we've been conditioned.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, I don't know. Like, I definitely have different aspirations when I'm 70 and 80. I'll still be surfing when I'm 70, and but that's because I know that that's 35 years away. I have the foresight, and this is what I think everybody should have, is like, have the foresight that, like, when you're at that age, have ultimate optionality. If it's going to cost me 50 grand a year to surf when I'm 70, in terms of like doing yoga every day, seeing osteopaths, chiropractors, whatever it takes, I'm spending that money because that's like the thing that fills my cup up most. And if for you, when you're 70 and you have kids and they're, maybe in their 30s, and the thing that fills your cup up most is seeing them have an amazing life, and you've got this optionality of money that you can give them to help them have a leg up in terms of like deposit on a house or whatever it is, like, you should be excited for that shit. Like, that's what you're building today. And obviously it shouldn't come at sacrifice of like you said, Sam, now that your kids are, just over 1 and 3, you shouldn't be sacrificing all your time to just building this thing in the future. Whereas like they need you now, and you're getting ROI from spending time with them now. So like, it's that balance, right? You got to work out what fulfills you now, and then what's going to fulfill you in the future, and plan for both.
Yeah, write it down, and you will come to it. And if you're a partner, crack open I don't know, have a cup of tea, sit down, ponder it. I'll say crack a bottle of wine, but there's a lot of toxicity in alcohol, which I'm learning now in my mid-30s. But if you listen to this in your 20s, I was.
Don't crack a wine, just crack a goon. Just goon sack.
Oh, geez, no, that was teenage years, mate. But no, I hope people do get a lot out of this, because this is kind of more in line with, I guess, what we're the message that I'm trying to get out there to people is, it's not hard to create wealth and get out of this rat race. It just takes a little bit of long-term thinking, but we're also trained to think short-term, want things now. But yeah, it's like have those real conversations, put those big rocks in the jar, and there's always a way to have it all. It's just figuring out, well, if you substitute this, you can add this, so it's that goes back to the full arching of a property strategy and having that I guess plan in place. So if you do have any questions or want to jump on and have a bit of a plan and essentially nut it out, then reach out. hello@propertypals.au. Love to try and help out where I can and point you in the right direction. And if you have any questions, like our listener Powell, we love these, so send them through.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for listening, guys. Speak to you on the next one.